It's a real tribute to how deep, rich and varied the shmup lineup already available on Switch is that Ghostblade HD, arguably the pinnacle of the Wii U's entire shmup library, isn't being met with more fanfare by shmup-loving Nintendo fans. Not that it's being ignored, this is still an exciting release, but what would have been in the previous generation a singularly noteworthy event is, this time round, just the latest in a regular stream of quality shmup releases for Nintendo's hybrid console. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you may have worked out by now that I enjoy a wide range of different types of shmup, and I'm always willing to try out something new. However, vertically scrolling bullet hells always have and always will be my subgenre of choice, and if we define the word crowd to mean me, Ghostblade, developed by HuCast Games and published by East Asia Soft, who kindly supplied my digital copy of the game, should most definitely be a crowd pleaser. At first glance, and if you kind of squint a bit, Ghostblade could be mistaken for a cave game. The inevitable question, therefore, is, can it withstand such a lofty comparison? And well, I'm afraid simply having tanks roll on screen on a diagonal trajectory does not a cave game make, and the short answer is no, of course not. However, comparing a new game to the output of the most renowned shmup developers of all time is more than a little disingenuous, and to deliver a fairer assessment we need to take a look at the game on its own merits. So let's do that. If you've seen footage of Ghostblade, you're probably already aware of its strongest feature, namely the visuals. These are really high quality with richly detailed backgrounds, ships and enemy types. Even bullets have a pretty appearance. When playing on your TV or in regular handheld mode, there are multiple attractive borders to select from, and in general, the presentation is excellent. Add a flip grip to the mix and you are really setting yourself up for some arcade-style wonder as the playing field takes full advantage of every pixel the Switch's vertical orientation makes available. Only complaint here is that your ship can actually disappear off the bottom of the screen in this mode, or be obstructed by the on-screen HUD. Overall though, this is possibly the best use of the Switch's unique Tate mode capability we've seen yet. So far so good, but you're asking, how does the thing play? Well, the short answer to this one is, fine, pretty much. You have two shots, a standard spread shot and a focus shot that slows your movement speed. You're almost certainly going to want to remap the button for the focus shot from Y to X, by the way. Unfortunately, the game does allow that, to make for easier switching between the two shot types. You also have a stock of screen clearing bombs, and these can be added to by collecting orbs to fill a meter, which when full add one bomb and immediately starts filling again. This meter fills at a fairly speedy rate, and it's possible to find yourself with a good 5 or 6 bombs by the middle of the third stage, before which they're not really necessary. That, by the way, is nearly halfway through the game and ought to suggest one of this title's flaws, which we'll get to later. Now, other than the orbs, the game is constantly throwing at you stars, both floating and ground-based, power-ups and even extra lives. Coupled with the non-stop influx of enemies and bullets, that could all too easily become an unparsable chaos. But Ghostblade actually does a good job of keeping everything clear, although there are occasions where a mixture of green bullets and the orbs can create confusion, and occasionally kamikaze enemies can get lost beneath other elements. An interesting mechanic is the way defeating an enemy will turn most of their already fired bullets into stars. This is great for scoring points, of course, but adds another layer by making deliberately diving into impossible to escape situations a viable strategy, provided you're confident you can kill the enemy whose bullets are trapping you quickly enough. And on the topic of bullet patterns, this is an area in which Ghostblade somewhat flatters to deceive. Watching gameplay, the action looks fast, frantic and manic with intense screen-filling patterns. But in reality, these are never hugely inventive, and paths through them are usually fairly easy both to find and to subsequently make use of. Nowhere is this more true than during boss fights, which, while impressive to look at, far from delivering a climax, are frequently easier to weave through than the bulk of the stages themselves. Coupled with the generous bomb system, this means Ghostblade isn't a particularly challenging game. That's not to say it's easy, it's still a shmup, and a 1cc on normal will require a bit of practice, especially the later levels. But given that there are only 5 stages, there's not a huge amount of challenge either in terms of length or depth on offer here. That extends to scoring, the main component of which is a multiplier that goes up with each enemy you kill, and resets only when you take a hit. Again, the generosity of the game's bomb allowance comes into play here, with it being fairly simple to achieve almost full multipliers in the first couple of stages without even needing to play well. In fact, Ghostblade is one of the very few shmups where you feel like you can allow your attention to drift and still be mostly okay. That's great for beginners and for significant others fed up of talking to someone who can't remember what they said 2 minutes earlier, but for serious players it might be a bit of an issue. Even for beginners, playing on easy mode, which adds an auto-bomb function, would require actively trying to fail in order to avoid finishing at 1 credit. At the end of each stage, a multitude of factors such as bombs and lives remaining are taken into account to provide a bonus score, but none of them come close to the importance of simply maintaining that multiplier. There is one other system, although it is, at least to me, slightly ill-defined. In each stage there are several larger enemies, many of whom signal their arrival by floating in the stage background. These will grant extra stars when defeated at very close range. Honestly, I haven't worked out the exact way this system works yet, but had it been more integrally implemented, it could have added a nice extra layer of strategy. As is, however, it doesn't seem to be of particularly huge import. Now, as mentioned, the graphical quality is very good, but there's also something of a lack of cohesion evident as you progress through the game. There doesn't seem to be any overriding theme or progression to the stages or encounters, as one moment you fly over Mars, the next an ice planet, the next a space station with blooming sakura, and then, oh, it's the end, and who are we fighting again? If I hadn't already known this was a 5-stage game, I would have been completely unaware that the 5th stage boss was, in fact, the final boss. As for our 3 scantily clad pilots, are they some sort of elite fighting force, or did they just get lost on their way to an 80s sci-fi cosplay convention? We have no idea. And this lack of cohesion extends to the ways enemies attack, with ships flying in constantly and all mixed up seemingly at random, rather than in defined waves or choreographed phases for you to learn and memorize. However, despite all I've just said, the game is most assuredly a good amount of fun, and destroying the constant barrage of enemies is hugely satisfying. It's just over a bit too quickly, and while there is some decent replayability to the game itself, it's not at the same level as a proper arcade classic. Fortunately, the game offers several extras to extend its life, with both local and online leaderboards for each difficulty, a score attack mode, and the ability to train both on individual levels and even against specific bosses. There's almost every sort of customization you could imagine too, although it would be nice to see a quick restart option added, particularly to the score attack mode. An in-game achievement system is another nice addition, but most of the achievements are fairly simple, with just the billion points in score attack requiring much more than basic skills to achieve. This all adds up to make Ghostblade a perfectly solid package, albeit one more suited to less experienced players than the more hardcore among you. With Esperade just 2 months away, I'd actually even go so far as to caution anyone preparing for that release to be careful, as rather than sharpening your bullet hell skills, playing Ghostblade may encourage sloppiness and complacency. For most people though, this will be a fun and accessible, if unspectacular way to get in on some bullet hell action. I'd rate the game a decent 7 out of 10, but with the proviso that if you like to play more casually, if visuals are a major plus for you, if you own a flip grip, or even if you are a more serious player and you're just looking for something a bit more simple and fun to try, this is absolutely worth its asking price on the eShop. And do remember, there is a physical edition available for collectors too, which I personally pounced on as soon as it was announced, and don't regret in the slightest now I've actually tried the game. Before I go, a quick announcement. I ran a giveaway for a digital code for Ghostblade on my Twitter, and I'm happy to announce I go by SRI as the winner for providing the incredibly specific answer of not just Halong Bay in Vietnam, but naming T-Top Island as the island front and centre in the photo. Shout out as well to Chavita18 for suggesting Los Angeles as an answer, maybe in a century from now. As ever, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.